Welcome back to the Enduring Minds podcast on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Bahamundi, and I'm being joined by Evan Birch. And what we are going to be doing today is speaking with Joshua Holi about life, man, like simple life, as he has done some amazing things. He's gone through some obstacles and some hard times, and he's come out the other side. And we're going to explore his life and the things that he has gone through. Super interesting person who I met through Chrissy Murphy on Instagram as she was running the Philadelphia Marathon, and Josh is from that area. So I can't wait to get him on the show. But before we do, we are podcast contract obligated to say, subscribe, rate, review, and comment on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network on all of your podcast platforms, as well as on YouTube, because it does help us with the algorithm. It helps us get great guests like Josh onto the show. And then, in all honesty, I love talking to you people. As you know, I've been already talking for a minute, and I want to hear more from you and get your ideas. So, Evan, welcome back to another episode of Enduring Minds. I am super excited to have Josh on the show. How are you doing today?
Yeah, things are good. I know we're doing a marathon of recordings, which is amazing. I love just being in just kind of locked in. I had another podcast I was on yesterday too. That was a local one that was my first in-person podcast. Which there's some stuff I talked about that I've never told anybody, so it was kind of fun.
Really?
Yeah.
Were your hands as sweaty as mine were when we did episode 3 of Enduring Minds 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was. It definitely. It took me a while to settle into it, I feel like I'm in the podcast groove this week, so I'm excited to see where it goes today.
Yeah, I'm pumped to bring Josh on the show. His story is super interesting. As many of you listeners know, we don't have scripted questions, so it will be super interesting to see where this conversation takes us after we ask him the opening question. So let's not hesitate and let's get this ball rolling. Josh, welcome to Enduring Minds. Thanks for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, I am honored to have you here because, as I've mentioned to you in the green room, I found your account through a mutual friend of ours and Chrissy Murphy, and I was just overwhelmed by the positivity, the inclusiveness, and then also the love that you shared for your wife on your feed. And it's just refreshing more than anything else to see that, as opposed to, a scripted series of posts that are, I'm as hard as the hardest, and I'm gonna grind myself into the ground and all that other stuff that we see that people, tend to post on a regular basis. So I'm going to start with what we think is a simple question, but I think it gets into the heart of everything that we do here with Enduring Minds. And so that question is, who is Joshua Holi?
I really just define myself as a normal person who has been through some hard times and was fortunate enough to make it out of those times. And now I do my best to show people how to take those steps to get through, tough seasons.
Yeah, I mean, this question usually stumps people. You answered it with just like such an affirming answer of just like, I am a normal person. And I think it's such a beautiful way to start off, because it shows me so much about who you are as an individual, that you have gone through everything you've experienced. We're going to get more into it today, but you have figured out who you are. Like, with how short that answer is, that's what I'm getting from it. So who or how have you been able to figure that out for yourself? Like, how did you figure that out?
I think it came from learning my limits. I'm a big believer in, how are you going to know what you're capable of unless you know how far you can go? And so that's a big reason why I'm passionate about running, because it puts me in a position to learn about myself. I hate to go cliche right off the bat, but I saw a clip recently with David Goggins. He was training with the UFC fighter Israel Adesanya, and he was explaining this concept to him that said, when he was running a 100-mile race, he gains like 10 years of life experience in that race, because the amount of the amount of trauma that he experiences during those miles. A normal person that doesn't test their limits, it would take them a lifetime to experience that many lows. So that's something that I really get out of running. It helps me learn about who I am, and I try to apply that in other aspects of my life. So I'm constantly searching for where are my limits, which gives me information on who I am. Then once you realize who you are, you begin to get more comfortable with a lot of things, because you understand how you're supposed to react and how you want to.
I have so many questions, dude. One of the things I wrote down from your initial statement was one, how easy it came out. Like, again, Evan said it right. Like, most people stump. And then we also see a recency bias. Like, if somebody comes on our show after having just run, they would start with, I'm a runner, and then go into other things. Or maybe they just clean their kids' diapers. They'd be like, I'm a parent, and then whatever else. But yours came out with such ease. And one of the words I wrote down as you were talking was leader. Do you consider yourself a leader? And have you always been a leader?
I do consider myself a leader now. I would say I was a follower for the majority of my life. But it took me some time to really identify as a leader per myself. I mean, even after I had been through a lot that I've been through, and I started mentoring and working with other people, I still didn't feel like a leader really, but that was more something internal. But I do absolutely feel like that now. Yeah.
Do you embrace it, or is it a reluctant leadership that you've taken on?
That's a great question, because I think it was reluctant in the beginning. And so I kind of just strayed away from it and didn't put too much thought into it. Now I really lean into it and embrace it. And I feel it is my purpose and my mission to be a leader. More so because the times that I've followed, I failed and made a lot of mistakes that I didn't have to make to get to the result of those lessons. But more so, I just feel confident in who I am, and I think I used to look to other people to try and get more types of validation, I would say, but now I kind of feel like I'm in a position where I should be trying to bring people along instead of, just following what everyone else seems to be doing.
In the running space, especially the ultra space, there's a lot of people that have gone through a lot. Not everybody. There's some people that are definitely here from the athletic standpoint, but there's a lot of people that have gone through addiction, mental health, trauma, you name it. There's somebody that's gone through it. Has running always been a positive for you, or is it something that you've had to develop into being a positive?
So I got into running 3 years ago, 2023. I had actually gone through a divorce in 2021. I was previously married, in like a almost 9-year relationship. It didn't work out, amicable split. And I had moved to Philadelphia early, like January 2022, sorry. And I was really lost. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have a sense of community. And I ended up going to a local gym, and I met a lot of the coaches there who were runners. So in the beginning, again, that follower quality, I wanted to be a part of something. I wanted to be included. I was in bad shape physically, so I knew it was a plus, but I was really just doing it as something to be a part of some sort of community and to meet people. And then it kind of turned to, now I just want to get good numbers, be faster. I didn't want to be considered slow. I kind of fell into that trap for a little bit. And then it became more of a positive, where I was like, wait a minute, this is just something I can enjoy. This stuff doesn't matter. And from there, I really started having fun with it the past few years.
I want to go back to because you said you were a follower, a reluctant leader. Do you think that you could just be a leader without having gone through the experiences that you go through as a follower, right? Because you're learning along the way, and then you might see something that says, yeah, I'd rather do it this way, so I'm going to go lead over here. So I wonder if your thought process is, yeah, as a follower, it took me through some hard times, I learned some tough lessons, and now here I am leading. But are you the leader you are today without going through that process?
Definitely not. I totally agree with you. I think it's necessary to be a follower in order to be a leader. Only because as a leader, if you're leading people, you need to know what it's like to follow and have experience there. I mean, if I could even compare it to like a war scenario, right? If I was in the army and I was being sent off to war, I would want someone leading me who had experience, who knew what it was like to be in war, who knew the emotions, who knew the outcomes, and who faced those same trials versus someone who was just book smart and educated and studied all qualities of leadership and mission control. Nothing like lived experience to give you that leadership quality.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned that you didn't have a group of people moving to Philadelphia, new divorce, kind of building a new life for yourself at this point. And I know from my experience as I was growing up, there's always pockets of like groups of people, whether it be junior high, high school, sports teams, all these other things. Looking back in your life, was there moments where you had those groups of people that you were collected with that maybe were positive, maybe were negative, that you either grew out of or just kind of moved on from?
I had a group of childhood friends that, it was like 4 or 5 of us. We were really close. We're still close to this day, thankfully. But it was me more so straying from that group. We were all a group of good kids when we were in high school and middle school. We didn't, we weren't out really getting into trouble. We weren't drinking or anything like that or smoking. And we were the kind of like the straight edge guys. We would go to the parties, but we wouldn't, be getting hammered or anything. We would just go there and have fun. But then as a teenager, I strayed off from them and got into more of like a street life. And then from there, my friends were really mixed, few and far in between until I ended up going to prison and coming home. And then I had that same group originally who was still there for me, showing me support. And, when I moved to Philly, they were back in the Lehigh Valley, which is like an hour and a half north. So it's a drive away. But I mean, when you're working and you're in a city all by yourself, it's still, there's still that separation. Everybody has families now. They're older, they have children. So, that time spent just becomes less and less.
Have they, despite being an hour and a half away, gotten into running because you've gotten into running?
One of them has, yeah. My friend Rick, he actually ran his first marathon. It was this year, a few months ago, and I was able to coach him through to his first one. He ran the Bruce City Marathon in Milwaukee. So yeah, it was a really rewarding experience to be able to help him through that because he was a former pro fighter, and he took me into the boxing gym a lot and taught me a lot along the way when I had came home from prison in 2013. So it was cool to kind of, be able to give back to him in that way.
I want to follow that up with this question. So you knew what it felt like to have support from Rick. What's the feeling like to turn that around, to turn the table around now and to support him through that process? Like what's the feeling you had, the positive and the negative components to helping somebody get to their first marathon as a coach in a sense for them?
In that aspect, it was like an honor for me because I kind of felt like, you've done so much for me. And he would, throughout the block as things were changing and we were, working on his fueling and his program, and I'm checking in with him during the week, adjusting speed work. And he's just like so grateful, like, thank you for doing this. Thank you. And I'm like, dude, this is like a drop in the bucket from what I got, from you all these years that you were training me. So, yeah, I was really, really honored to be able to give back to a friend in that way. There's a different kind of like rewarding feeling.
It's incredible when you see people for who they truly are and you don't have to put on a performance. You don't have to be anything that you're not. And I mean, that's what I'm hearing in this friend group that you have of people that have always been there to support you. Just because something went wrong in your life didn't mean that they just wrote you off as this like horrible person. And that's very easy for people to do. Like somebody does something that they shouldn't, well, that person's a bad person. It's like, well, that's not necessarily always the case. That's, somebody made a mistake when they were younger, whatever that is. And I would imagine, being in prison and having that freedom taken away from you and all those other pieces, the friendships, the relationships, all that other stuff. Like how was that mentally, not only like going in, but also coming out and having this kind of experience that not many people have the opportunity to grow from?
I think it's going to sound a bit counterintuitive, but it was in a way a good thing to go in there with minimal support and minimal friends, because the people that when I went in there, I was 22, so I didn't have a girlfriend, I didn't have any children, I wasn't a homeowner. On paper, I was just a regular guy that was, that had got in some trouble. So the stress of the outside world was less for me, knowing that I didn't have like a wife out there, kids out there that I couldn't be there for. I mean, I had family that I was pretty much disconnected with to an extent. So I wasn't around for a few years prior to that even happening. So I think it helped in a way me deal with doing the time. But it was very lonely. But again, it put me in a position to learn about who I actually am, and it gave me the time to really self-explore and figure out who I am and who do I want to be by the time I get out of this place.
It's so, look, we watch TV, we watch movies, and they what is happening here? They quasi glamorize prison in that sense, right? And I don't think you'll ever really know anything until you're actually there. I'm wondering how you pass the time in there from this perspective, because I want to keep going back to this follower leader. Like, you're going into prison, presumably you don't know anybody in there, and you've got to try to figure out everything that's happening in there so that you can get through the sentence and get out. And so how do you figure out like community in this sense, right? Because there are people in there and there are communities in there, and there are going to be other human beings talking, hanging out, doing whatever they got to do. And so how are you figuring this out? Because this is what I'm trying to get to, is how the follower becomes a leader. And so like you're in prison, presumably, again, like I said, without having known anybody in there, and trying to figure out, where do I fit in this space?
Yeah. So I by the time I had went there, so when I got apprehended, this was January of 2008. So I was a fugitive for 13 months prior to getting caught for my crime. And I was in a different headspace then. I was very hard-headed, violent, and I guess I would think about things in an aloof manner, if I'm describing that correctly, where it's like I just acted out. I didn't really put too much thought into how other people were feeling about what I was doing. And I had already convinced myself, basically what you just said there about how, like, who am I going to connect with? How's there going to be community? The message I had already etched in my mind is that there is nobody there, and there's not going to be anybody there, and you're going to do this alone. It was very important to me that I didn't fall into like a worse place going in there in terms of, joining a gang or getting into trouble. So my thought process was, you made a decision, you have to live with this decision. I've been, a fugitive for the past 13 months. So I knew what was ahead, and I knew what was inevitable. So my thought process was, get in there and just try and get in the best shape you can to basically protect yourself. I served 5 years, so I knew I had, there's going to be plenty of times where I could be in a position to get hurt. So I wanted to make sure that I was ready for that. And that was like my primary concern was my safety.
Yeah. I mean, the phrase that I use a lot is we're a collection of our choices, not a result of our circumstance. Because
Yeah.
as you've been saying, like they were all choices that you made, maybe not from the best headspace in all accounts. However, like all those choices eventually pile up and lead to what's happening in our life. It's not circumstance didn't make you do what you did. It's something that you chose, actively chose. Now, how do you? Where do I go with this one? How do you move on from those poor choices to now making those better choices as you're growing, as you're getting fitter in prison, and preparing yourself to that you're going to come out and you're going to have a new life. You're going to be starting a new life. You're going to be starting from zero. Describe what that feeling not only like feels in your body, but also like what are you thinking when you're coming out?
So I would say the first few years, maybe the first two and some change, I was still kind of trying to figure things out. I knew I was always a book smart kid in school, so I was really diving into the library, not anything like fiction, but really just learning, reading biographies, world history, science. I really enjoy learning language, so I was studying stuff like that in there, and then just working out. And then it wasn't until around that halfway point that I really started realizing, does everything I believe today as like a 24-year-old young adult, is that what I actually believe? Or is it a collection of things that have just been placed on me that I decided to accept as true because my friends like it or the people around me think it's cool? So I kind of just went on this really deep road of self-discovery and tried to go back to basic terms like, what does love look like to me? What does respect mean to me? What does being humble mean? And there's a lot of those words I had to redefine. And I slowly started realizing, okay, who do I want to be when this is all said and done? And then I just worked backwards from there. So if I had this vision of this person who was doing the right thing, was, maybe owned a business and he was making a comfortable salary, for example, what are the qualities that go along with that person? And then I would break those down and start working on those qualities on myself. So whether it was patience, whether it was, remaining calm or trying to not respond to X amount of anger I had, I just started chipping away and I knew I had years to go. So by the time I did come out, I had built this level of confidence that was really high. Like if I could just do 5 years of this, like the real world is not going to be this battle that people make it out to be. So that's what prepared me.
Yeah, I have one quick follow up, and then I'm going to let Jason ride with that confidence thing that I saw you writing down there. Yeah, he knows. What I heard in that was it wasn't your voice and it wasn't your story that you were listening to that got you there in the first place. And I'm sure that was like a very big tipping point of being able to start listening to yourself and trusting yourself again. And again, this idea that when you're in that dark place, maybe your intuition isn't the best thing to listen to. It's a little bit broken.
Mm-hmm.
But what I heard in what you said of that, you're reading, you're trying to figure out who you are. Like your intuition was coming back, and you were starting to lean into it. And I think it's incredible to hear that, because so many people just think people go into prison and they're always going to be there and they're going to just keep cycling in and out. But you changed that narrative, and you changed that with your own story versus listening to somebody else's. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That means a lot.
So we're having a serious conversation, but I wonder if you have realized that at least two times that I've noticed, and I've written them down, that you have smiled the biggest is when you talked about helping Rick and your friends, and when the word confidence came out in that last answer to Evans. Like, can you feel the smile coming out? And if you're recognizing the smile, why was it friends / Rick and helping him and confidence, the two moments that brought that smile out of you?
Yeah, I smile a lot now. It's pretty crazy because even growing up, even as early as first grade, all of my school pictures are just this like stone face kid, you know? And again, I think it was more me being that follower, trying to be strong. And, I grew up in a household of all women. It was my grandmother, my aunts, my mother, my sister. I didn't have a father, which I think really does attribute to the following that I was doing as a youth and as a teenager, like, going to the street looking for the older guys to accept me into their crew and, that whole narrative. But yeah, I get a lot out of being able to help people in some way, because I think deep down I do feel like I took a lot away from people, during that period of time. So, there's a small piece of me that feels like I want to balance things out, but the majority of me understands and forgives myself for that, and understands that it's not about, give and take. And I'm not just giving so I can make up for something that I did previous. This is just something that I feel moved and purposeful to do.
So I'm going to ask you to smile a lot more for the rest of this conversation. But I do have a follow-up, because one of the things we talk about a lot on this show, and this is episode 21 or 20, I think, at this point of season 2. And so we've had 40-ish conversations. And one of the things that almost comes up in every single one of them is grace, and learning to give ourselves grace. We do hard stuff. Sometimes we fail, and we have to give ourselves grace. You mentioned forgiving yourself. How hard or easy was it to forgive yourself for that period of time where you were a follower and it got yourself into trouble, to say that was a moment and it happened and it is what it is? I have to forgive myself so that I can move forward. Was that an easy thing to do, or was that a hard thing to do for you?
Very difficult, I would say. It took me a really long time. And I think one of the reasons why for me it took longer was because I kind of felt like everybody else was forgiving me before I forgave myself. And from my perspective, they didn't really know the extent of what they were forgiving. It was almost like, for example, obviously there's multiple sides to every story. When it came to my story and I went to prison, I was protecting my family. And a lot of people had that perspective as well. So when I went to prison, a lot of people were not mad about it in that sense. They were like, look, anybody would have did what you've done. Anybody would have did that for their family. Or so they didn't look at me like I did anything wrong. And in my eyes over time, I was like, no, what I did was wrong though. And you're over here saying it's okay. So the forgiveness that you're giving me doesn't help me forgive myself anymore, because I know the extent of what I've done. And I feel like I have a better understanding of that. So it was more over time that I was on that self-discovery road that I realized, even what you had said earlier, Evan, it's like you're not going to tie one particular thing to your identity. And that's where I was like, look, this was a moment in time. I made a big mistake, no doubt. And I acknowledge that. But at some point, I have to move forward from it. I've been accountable for it. I've apologized for it. I've paid the debts that I could for it. Even the victim, we apologized to each other for the situation. We ran into each other, while I was on state parole after I came home, and had a short talk. Not like we're friends or anything, but I mean, we've made peace in that aspect. And so it was kind of just like, look, I can't let this thing drag me down anymore. And I got comfortable with being okay with that. And now it's like, I really feel healed from everything. And I think it was necessary for me to be healed in order to continue the mission that I was on.
It was your story that you had to live with. It was very easy for other people to say you should forgive yourself, but they didn't have to live with the consequences of what happened. And I think that's that's the flip side of it, is like, yes, there's that grace that they're giving you, but they also don't have to sit with it. And I think that's a really that's a tough place to be in. So I have one quick question before I go into my bigger question. Did you have to learn how to feel again, or was it instinctual? Did it happen easy?
It's a great question. So I guess one thing that I could say that also caused me to go on that road of self-discovery was the violence that happens up there. You begin to just become unaffected by it. And I noticed that, people were getting stabbed up, in, let's say, in the yard, and I'd come back from the yard like, are y'all going in lunch or what's going on? It wasn't like a thing. And it's not something I was proud of, but something in my own time that I was like, this is not a good thing that's happening to me. Like, I'm becoming something, even though I'm on this road trying to change. So instead of really me saying to feel again, I think what I really did was just adjust the scale of, I had this desensitized feeling of when I see these certain things. I had compassion, I had emotion, but it was just dormant. I just had like pressed it down. And I think I just have adjusted now because, unfortunate things happen out here. Sometimes I see something on my phone and I don't react. That piece comes up a little bit and I don't feel anything. And I think it was more of just an adjustment of what emotions I let to the front of the line. I do a visualization and I talk about a lot. I call it feelings in the queue. It was something that would help me manage my emotions, where I really just picture myself. There's a visualization I do. It's myself in a line just over and over, like clones of myself. Each person represents an emotion. And the people who are in the front of that line are the emotions I feel the strongest. So when I feel normal, I have like, calm, strength, focus, driven. I could see those guys in the front. And then people like fear, doubt, anger are in the back. And then when I have those feelings of fear and doubt physically in my mind, I could see those people just like making their way to the front. But I know it's only a matter of time before that line revolves and those people get pulled back. And so that's something I think of often when it comes to feeling certain ways about things.
I love visualization stuff in that way. So it's like, I'm picturing it now for myself. I'm like, man, I'm going to tell my kids that one.
Awesome.
It's such a simple one. I think that's the thing that makes it so beautiful, is it's just simple. But the one piece I wanted to touch on with the feeling aspect, and my only parallel is with the job that I did for 20 years in emergency services, was answering 911 calls, dispatching like air ambulance helicopters. Like I had to hear like some bad stuff. So you witness bad stuff. I had to like hear it and not know what happened afterwards. So for me, it was, I had to teach myself how not to feel in order to survive and do the job. Now I would imagine in prison, you had to like tone that feeling down a little bit, because if you showed any feeling, that would show weakness and that would show vulnerability to people that could potentially hurt you. So it's the safety aspect. Your body's trying to keep you safe by not necessarily like, it's down there, but you can't show it. And that's like, suppressing emotions is usually how, health things come up, medical situations come up in your body. Your body knows those things. So maybe tell me if I'm wrong, but that's how I pictured it when you were telling that story.
Exactly the same. Yeah. Like even you saying that almost gives me chills to think like, in a way that to me is almost worse. Mm-hmm. When people are calling for an emergency and you just have to hear, but you have no way of knowing even like the result. That's hard not to take home with you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm gonna let Jason go with the next one here.
You talked about following yourself, and I drew an arrow because earlier you said that you would read biographies. And so I want to know what biographies impacted you more than others to lead you to being able to follow yourself and kind of gave you that inspiration, motivation, example for you to become who you are today.
Man, I hate to go cliche. It wasn't an actual biography, but I read. So there's a classic list of books that people read in prison. A lot of them are like Robert Greene books, The Art of War, 33 not Art of War, the 33 Strategies of War, the 48 Laws of Power, Art of Seduction. In the beginning, I was reading a lot of books like that, and then it turned into really like I was studying mathematics. The biographies didn't move me too much. It was more to pass the time, but it was like on the old characters, Caesar, Alexander the Great, Machiavelli. But it's like when you read stuff like that, it almost makes people, like for me personally, it was just making me more militant. So I was really on some, what are things that can just help me, People's History of the United States, I thought was a great book. But then like you get the self-help ones like Atomic Habits, Malcolm Gladwell books, Outlier. Stories like that. It wasn't so much the material that really sparked the change, more so me in my own mind, just seeing the things that were happening and understanding like this cannot be the rest of my life. There was people, for example, I think I've told this story before. I went to solitary confinement while I was upstate. I got into this fight with this guy. They put us down there for like 3 months, and you go down to what they call the hole. It's like an administrative segregation. You're down there 23 hours a day, and you get 1 hour of like walking in this little cage back and forth. And there was a guy down there who is down there permanently. Some people are they can't be in general population because for whatever reason, it could be they're violent, it could be they're afraid. There was a guy down there, I know they were making fun of him because he hadn't seen a car or like an animal in like over 17 years. And like, I hear stuff like that, and it's like, how is this real right now where I am? Like, I know my life is destined for something more than this. And it was just like a culmination of a lot of those kind of moments that really pushed me to say, okay, I'm capable of getting out of here and doing the right thing. And I just made the decision and the commitment to do it.
Every now and again, there's a light bulb moment. And as you were talking, even prior to the solitary confinement part of your answer, one of the things I realized is while you were reading mathematics books and studying, and you mentioned like some of the Machiavelli and Napoleon and that kind of stuff, and you were like, this is just going to get into more violence. And there was a moment where you actually understood who you were, what you were doing, and why this isn't beneficial to you. And the light bulb moment for me was, and he doesn't have a phone in his hand to scroll social media. And so it made me think about the opportunity that you have. And I want to say this in a way so that it helps people that are not in prison today to put this together. The ability to connect with yourself in that moment to get you to say, this isn't for me and this is for me, has to be so powerful, because today we could pick this up in any moment and start scrolling things and be influenced by what's in our hand. And so I'm wondering if today, when you're leading your run club and you're with your family and you're with your friends, if there are moments where you're like, people, put your phones down, like let's get to know each other and connect with each other. Because I know when I connected with myself, my thoughts and my and life changed. Like, do you have those moments when you're in your groups?
Yeah, I do. A lot of my friends, the circle that I talked about, they're not. I mean, I'm 40. I'm going to be 41 this year. So like my circle of friends, they're not really active they're not content creators or social media people. I mean, my friends in Philly are, but we're normally training, so it's not so full of phones. But when I do see my family, they're very present. A lot of my family is older, my aunts and all of them. So I do have some moments like that. Even my fiance and I, we have certain times where we say, hey, like, let's go out to eat. Let's leave our phones in the car, or, let's watch this movie and let's say we're not going to do phones, or we'll do like a Bible study activity or something and say we won't phone it. we really try to just regulate that, but yeah, it's hard. We even I'm guilty sometimes. I'm down in the phone a lot as well.
Yeah,
But I do know like that moment when you're not on your phone, like you can connect with yourself deeper because I do it with myself too. Like we create content, we got podcasts and all this stuff happening. And there will be nights where I'll say, you know what, I'm going to leave my phone in our office and I'm going to be present because otherwise 2, 3, 4 hours goes by and I have no idea what was on the TV. I have no idea what my wife said. And it's because you're distracted by something else. And I want to get connected. I want to be connected. And being on the phone is not connection. It's not the same as the as the kids say, IRL connections.
Yeah, it's a totally different world now, which is I'm so thankful to have grown up in a generation where we didn't have it. Where it was like, it sounds so old, but it's like we would go outside, the street lights come on, we would go home. Like I would
Right.
we're out hanging out, skateboarding and riding bikes. Like there was no, these kids now, it's just few and far in between. Everybody's on devices and doing their thing. So I was thankful I had that time to really just, get that kind of childhood and then be brought into it at a later date.
Yeah, I'm 40 as well. You wouldn't know, but I'm 40 as well. And I completely agree with that. I mean, there was times that your parents would be like, get outside, don't come back till dinner.
Yeah.
Or, go and hang out at the swimming pool for the whole day. End up at 7-Eleven for the third time that day. And why? Who knows? Like you just go out and you came back. I heard a joke that it's just so your parents had time to fight. I heard that joke.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, it's like, can I get back in the house that I'm supposed to be living in? Thank you. Yeah, as a comedian, I think that I heard that from. It's hilarious. I want to touch on this idea of uncertainty, this discomfort and uncertainty. You lived it in a different experience, and now you've chosen this uncomfortable space and the uncertainty in the running world of pushing the distances. And Jason and I can relate to this in such a big way. I was running away for many years when I first got into ultra running, and now I'm running from like a very like self-love, joy, compassion for myself, and really embracing that. So what is it about running for you? And maybe just give us a little bit of kind of trajectory of like how you got into it, where you are now, and then maybe we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I don't feel like I was running away from anything at any point in my running journey. I think I was, like I mentioned in the beginning, I was running toward trying to be included into something in the beginning. And I really started out, my goal was just to run a half marathon. There was a bunch of people doing it at my gym, so I had signed up. It was Philly Half 2023. I think I finished like a 2:09 or something like that. And then right away I got pulled into the numbers. So I was like, all right, I got to go sub 2. And then did that at Love Run a few months later. And then I decided, okay, I think a full would be a great idea, like to become that part of the 1%. It was just something I wanted to do that was different. And I had linked up with one of my friends, Joe Rinaldi. He has a community called Project Endure, and he signed up for a 24-hour stair run at the Art Museum steps in Philly. There was a nonprofit event happening there for nonprofit Legacy of Hope. They raised money for cancer patients in Philadelphia. And I heard they're running the steps for 24 hours, and I was like, that is insanity. But it's for a great cause. And I've lost several members of my family to cancer. So I was in mid-training for my first full. It was going to be in November of 2024, Philly Marathon, and this stair run was in September. So I joined. It's not a big deal. I can walk as much as I want. There's no medal at the end. It's not a sanctioned thing. And I ended up clearing like 52 miles in the 24 hours. So it was like 15,000 feet of climb. I had ran my first marathon on stairs. Like I cleared the first distance on stairs, and the pits that I went in through that was just, man, I have never felt a feeling like that in my life. I wanted so bad to be out of there so many moments. And then other moments I was like, I can go another 10 hours. I'm going to be good. And when it was all said and done, I remember going home and I'm sitting in the passenger seat. My fiance was driving, and I just was like, how the hell did I do that? Like, how could I have completed that? That was just outlandish. And it made me realize like what we were really capable of. And it made me just want to explore that again. And that's what kind of pulled me into running ultras. And I thought, okay, I got to get this feeling again. And I failed all of my race goals that year, prepping for the next year for the marathon, because I ran the marathon 2 months later and I got like a 4:27. I had a 4-hour goal, so I was broken up about that. And I failed all the races throughout 2025 trying to push myself. And then when I hit Philly Marathon, I got to be an ambassador with Chrissy. That's, who had recommended me for this pod, and got a sub 4 there. And it was just like all the training had paid off. I failed my way to my A race. And again, that feeling was like, man, like I'm capable of so much more than I think. Even now that I've been training for a few years, I think I can do something, and there's so much more I think I can't do. And there's just these opportunities that keep unlocking. So I'm tied up, man. I'm in there. I just want to see how far I can take it, and still enjoy it. If it gets to a point where I'm just, not learning anything for myself and just trying to achieve some milestones, then I'll probably back off.
Am I mistaken? But are you not registered for a 100-miler in 2027?
I'm in. I'm in Javelina this year. I'm running
this year.
This October. Yeah. I'm excited.
I would offer my services because we'll be living in Phoenix at the time, but we'll actually be you and I are going to be switching coasts. I'll be on the East Coast for the New York City Marathon while you guys are running at Javelina. I'll preface it with this story. So at one time I was racing the US Open Olympic triathlon in Rockwall, Texas. And I had just finished an Ironman, and I swam, got in the water, and I panic attacked. Everything like always happens because I'm just an anxious swimmer, and I get to the first kayak and I hang on. And I'm talking to the volunteer, and she is fantastic. You can do this. Don't worry about it. Take your time, all the good stuff. And finally, I just said to myself, you're a fucking Ironman. You can swim 0.8 miles. You've done harder, right? And so I went and I swam. And so I wonder, like, as you're going through running, because running has its ups and downs, do you reflect on the hard times, like going to prison, having your freedom stripped from you, and saying to yourself, this is hard, but I've done harder? Like, does that come into play for you as well while you're running?
All the time. I like channel different parts of myself that, lie dormant today. I think about that a lot, to be honest. So normally during my training, it's not really a big thought in my mind, but when it's time to compete and when I'm at moments that I want to give up, I always think about, dude, you did 5 years up there. Like, there was times people were trying to kill you, and you made it out all right. You think you're not going to make it out of a training run? Like, I channel those people all the time. A big thing with running, we have a phrase we use called "wolves out early," which is really just a phrase that we use where I was called by like the Spanish people when I was in prison. They used to call me El Lobo Solitario, which meant like the lone wolf, because I was a guy that was always by myself. But I really aligned with the animal because it's like a misunderstood animal. They don't attack for the hell of it. They do it to survive. They respect their elders in the packs. They're strategic thinkers. They're compassionate animals. They're just misunderstood. And so like I really, related to that animal. So all the time, and when things are going hard in training, or when I'm in an ultra and I'm in that cave, I channel the wolf. I just think about who I was and things that I've been through. And I even do it at work, to be honest, because when I'm going through some really bad problem at work that we need to fix or we need to solve, I think like, dude, you ran 50 on stairs. Like, what do you mean you can't figure out this meeting by 10 a.m.? Like, it's not that serious. Like, you can get it done. So, yeah, I'm constantly channeling those old parts of me. And I do it in a safe way because it plays to a benefit. That when I channel them, they don't hurt anybody. They're not, doing anything wrong. So I keep them dormant until it's time to bring the dog out.
The wolf reminds me of Kobe Bryant saying that he has that alter ego. He's the Black Mamba when he's on the court, but when he's off the court, he's Kobe Bryant. And I think like that's what I hear in it. And I've heard a few people talk about this in the sense of the running space of like, what is your alter ego while you're running? Like you can still be the same person, but you can also like channel something really deep and really go into it. And that's what I'm hearing what you're saying with that.
Yeah.
And this idea when you've said training a few times, and I think I've told Jason this a couple times, I hate the word training. I hate it because to me, training has a set endpoint. I'm training for the Philadelphia Marathon. Okay, well, what comes after that? Like, what is it after it? So to me, it's like the word process. I don't really like the word journey either, but to me, process is the piece of the puzzle. One of my athletes asked me and said the other day, like, I finish my races and then I just kind of drop off my plan and I don't really have the motivation. I'm like, that's because you're looking for motivation. Like motivation isn't going to find you. Like you have to like cultivate it. And I said, you're not done until you say, Evan, I'm done coaching with you. Until then, this is the process and the journey that you're on. Nice. The races slot into that as like things we're working towards. And we can put stuff on there 3 years away. If we don't get to it, that's fine. But let's like dig in and focus on that process piece. So for you, training versus process, like I'm curious what your take is on that in that space.
I definitely like to have something on the schedule as of now. But I kind of look at myself. This may be a weird perspective, but I still look at myself as like pretty new to the space. So in a way, I kind of just feel like I'm checking some boxes before I can get to what I really want to do. I mean, I really want to do all the races I do, but I don't really look, to be honest, I'm not looking too far ahead with running. I'm having fun with it. I definitely want to continue to push myself, but I think I'm doing it more for, I'm a big believer in, I don't need motivation. I mean, I don't have it a lot. I love the whole motivation versus discipline. Discipline supersedes that. But for me, I just kind of feel like it's ingrained. I don't think I'll ever stop with your definition of process. Even if I don't have something on the schedule, I'm still going to be looking to improve, to get better. But I just kind of feel like I don't know. It's just there. That's a part of me now. And I think it's a necessary piece for me to continue to lead, to continue to just raise my standard and become a better version of myself. I think now that I'm saying this out loud, I think one of the things I am afraid of is not living up to my potential. So I almost feel like this is my duty. Like I have a calling now. I feel very much like I have a calling, and now I'm just in that calling, and this is just part of my life now, is to continue to just press forward and give back where I can, because the more I press forward, the more leverage, the more opportunity I have to reach more people. So it's all just contributing to the mission for me.
We're going to be bumping up on time here real quick. And I was hoping that within our conversation, I would get a glimpse into why on Instagram you go by November, KNOW_Vember. And I haven't gotten that. So can you enlighten us as to the meaning behind it?
Yeah, I was born November 13th, which, often falls on every 7 years, it falls on Friday the 13th. So people think that's like a bad luck. But 13 has always been like a good number for me. And I use KNOW as November because kind of my response to the last question, I just feel like I'm on this quest of every month to me is a month to learn, is a month to gain knowledge, is a month to, start something or improve on something in some way. It's weird. It's almost like when you had mentioned earlier about people in the ultra space, where they come from, some come from addiction, some come from trauma. And we kind of just adjust that from drugs or violence. And now we just do it to miles and bike sessions and things like that. I almost think I'm on a bit of a road of just the road of improvement is just a road that I guess I'm addicted. I guess you could say I'm addicted to it. I just really feel like it's more of my purpose, but it's just, the words that I speak, the words that I see every day, the thoughts that I have, all that stuff I try and be cognizant of. When I listen to music, a lot of time, I'm not a big music guy. So I would say like 99% of my runs are music. I never ran a race with music because the words are not mine. So like, it's depending on what song I'm listening to. I just have somebody telling me all this stuff that's probably negative. The beat is great. And then it's like subconsciously putting stuff in my mind and making me think about this stuff that could, affect me in some way. So I'm really cognizant. That's why I use that name. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but
no, it's awesome.
I have one quick comment, and Jason, I'll let you wrap it up with a final question here. I heard so Rachel Entrican, who just won Cocodona 250, she was in an interview, and they said what is it about the running? Like, why do you do it? And she said that she wants to figure out if she likes the person that she is while she's doing it. And when I heard that, I was like, oof, and that's like, for me, like if I were to go deep into it, I think we're all trying to figure out if that's the person that do we like the person when we're doing this? Because if it is the person that we like, we're going to want to do it more. And we're going to, whether you call it addicted or not, but it's something that is allowing me to exponentially figure out things about myself in a short, condensed time, as you said, right from the beginning. You are learning so much in such a short amount of time that would take you years to figure out. So maybe the next time you're on your run, start to think about it in the sense of do I like the person that I am while I'm running? And if you do, that to me is a sweet spot.
Yeah, that's really well said. I listened to that and I had the same feeling when she said that. Like, damn, that was a gem, and she is incredible, man.
Well, it's interesting because I also run musicless 99% of the time. And I've always said it's because I want to hear the birds chirping, nature, listen to my own words. But maybe a part of it is what you said, which is somebody is, excuse me, infiltrating my thoughts with their own thoughts. And so I'm no longer focused on me and how do I grow as a person. I'm focused on them and how do I help them grow as a person. And I, right. And so thank you for enlightening me.
No, I totally agree because they have I used to say it as a joke, like, oh, I just want to do it for maximum suffering. You know what I mean? And then I kind of was like, well, if I'm listening to music to try and distract me from what I'm doing, like I'm missing out. Yes. I thought the point was to sit here and to find out how bad I want it. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Nailed it. I'm going to ask the question, but one of the things I want to mention before I ask my question is we talked about it in the green space. The three of us are in love with our significant others. We talk about our significant others in a way that a lot of men don't. And my comment to you, Josh, is thank you. When I see your posts with your fiance and you're celebrating her and you put them in the stories and you're celebrating her, to me, that is a great example of being a leader and telling men in this oftentimes toxic masculinity space that it's okay to love your significant other. It's okay to applaud them and celebrate their victories and be there for them. And so I want to thank you for that. And maybe we'll get you back on the show to talk about why it's important for you to celebrate your fiance. But I know we have to get going. So I just wanted to say that. And the question that we always end, and I'm going to give you my variation of it, is you've got to talk with Evan and I for about an hour now. You've presumably learned something about yourself within this 60 minutes. What are you going to take from this conversation into life going forward?
That I'm on the right track. Definitely. I think this was like a really constructive conversation. It kind of just reaffirms a lot of what I'm doing. And I think a lot of the stuff you guys are doing, I hope to do one day as well. So yeah, I think I'm taking away that I'm on the right track, and that's enough for me. That's a lot for me, just to know I'm in the right direction with the things I have going on.
There isn't much better in the world than having a confidence marker when you're at Javelina and you're running your 100-miler on the trails, and you find that confidence marker to know that you're on the right path. There's nothing more rewarding in that moment, because there'll be times I've been out there with my headlamp and like, where am I? And if this podcast is your confidence marker to let you know that you're on the right path, then I think we've done something good here today for ourselves too.
Hell yeah, I appreciate you guys.
Josh, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate you. We'll put your Instagram handle in the show notes. It's at KNOW_Vember for those of you who want to connect with Josh. And I highly encourage you to do so. It's uber uplifting. I will never forget the comment that you posted one time that don't mistake kindness for weakness. I loved it. I commented on it because it's the truth. You are a kind person, but you are definitely not a weak person. So keep doing what you're doing, brother. Appreciate you.
You as well, man. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks so much, Josh.
That was a great conversation, Evan. I'm going to ask you a similar question that I asked Josh, which is, what are you taking from this conversation that you can apply to your life going forward?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. The number of conversations that we've had on this show, every time I do take a little bit of time just to reflect afterwards and just think about it a little bit. And I mean, just the level of humility that Josh has in the space. And I think that's something that I've always been working towards myself, is just understanding that, I'm not the results. I'm not those things. It's being able to give back. And especially as a coach, having finished this 60 kilometers this past weekend, and one of my athletes was running with me, and she placed fifth. And I was so over the moon proud of what she accomplished, knowing how much work she's put in. And I didn't care what I did that day. Like, there was the care that I had was all about, I got the opportunity to show her what she was capable of. So for me, that's a driving force, is that, helping people, in a way that I have the ability to, selfishly take a little bit away from what they were able to accomplish. What about you, Jason?
I am going to take away the follower to leader. Look, I started this company, started this podcast network, but I'm surrounded by you, Lori, Santino, and Joe. And sometimes, in order for me to get to where I want to go with this company, I have to take the role of follower and listen to what the four of you guys are saying in these conversations, so that I can then lead going forward after that. And I think in order to become a leader, Josh, to hit the nail on the head, you have to be a follower first in order to figure out what it is you're actually looking for and what you want to do, instead of just putting a flag in the ground and be like, I'm the leader. So I'm going to take that away from the conversation. So I really appreciate his sentiment on that. For those of you that have hung around for this conversation, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time, your energy, and your feedback. You can email me, jason@runtrimag.com, with any feedback you have about this conversation or any of the other conversations we have on Enduring Minds. Your support means the world to us, because it allows us to continue to bring great guests like Josh back onto the show. We'll see you again in 2 weeks for the next episode of Enduring Minds, where we are going the distance and breaking the silence. Have a great one, everybody.